Hello there, thanks for tuning in again to my channel. Got another pickup video for you today. Bunch of Spectrum games that I bought from a friend of mine. Eclectic set of games, just games that sort of took my fancy at the moment. Let's, without further ado, look at what we've got. First up, we've got Beachhead. Now, Beachhead was obviously a Commodore 64 game that was converted to the Spectrum. And a very early Spectrum game, and quite an impressive early start from US Gold. Really quality game, I think, in 1984 compared to a lot of the other games that were out at the time. Multi sort of stage type game, of course. Really good fun to play, and one of my favourites to this day, even though I'm a Spectrum fan really. But I think the Commodore 64 version and the other versions that it came out on generally better, but I think every version of Beachhead is a pretty good version of a game. So yeah, so first of all we've got Beachhead by Access, of course, originally. Wizard's Lair. Now, I did actually want Starquake, but Wizard's Lair was second choice. First game by Steve Crow, who went on to do, as I say, Starquake and also Firelord, another two favourites of mine. He did these great maze games on the Spectrum, published by Bubble Bus, as you can see. So there's Wizard's Lair. Next up, I can't believe I haven't already got a copy of this, but it's Bombjack by Elite. I remember going on holiday to Portugal, aged about 12, maybe younger, and picking up a copy of Bombjack with the emphasis on the word copy, as in a lot of Portuguese software sales. Unfortunately, it was a blatant rip-off. There was no originals to be seen, but I did get a copy of Bombjack and I did bring it home, and it did indeed work, so I was quite chuffed about that. But yeah, Bombjack by Elite finally got original copy all these years later, so great arcade conversion on the Spectrum. Next we have Harvey Headbanger. Now, I was looking through some issues of Crash recently, and this was a game from the Silver Range from Firebird, and it's not a game I've played before. I believe it's one of these types of games where you sort of colour in the squares, a bit like Pippo, which was by Mastertronic, and it got a really decent score in Crash. I think it got 80% or something, which is quite unusual for a budget game. So I thought I'd buy a copy and see how it played. So there's Harvey Headbanger by Firebird. Next up, we got another classic that I really love. That's kind of not in my collection, but is now obviously. It's Positron, which was by Hewson, which was a brilliant isometric game. I wasn't a huge fan, as I've said in my previous videos, of isometric games, but I really like this one. The grappling in-game in it was particularly fun, so I really enjoyed playing Positron. So I'm quite glad to finally get that in my collection. But unusual that even at this late stage, I think it came out in 1986, Hewson was still using a single cassette. I think they did that for Iridium as well. So there's Positron. Another budget game, Spellbound, which was another game I read about in Crash recently, and this got a remarkable review in Crash, considering it was only $2.99. 95% it got scored in Crash, which is quite incredible, but that just shows you the quality of the game. Written by David Jones, of course. Actually, I preferred Nighttime, if you really press me, because I was kind of into sci-fi and Star Trek and Star Wars and that, so the Star Wars kind of Star Trek kind of scenario appealed to me more, but I still love Spellbound as well. I thought that was a great game from Mastertronic, Mastertronic Added Dimension, as we should say. Right, one more budget game we got here, Future Games. Now, this was obviously a rip-off of Daley Thompson type games. Bit of a mismatch this, to be honest. There's some really good games like Toxard Shoot, which is kind of like a shooting type game, as the name suggests, and a couple of the other bits are really not great. But as a multi-loader, it wasn't a great deal of fun. You had to load, I think, 3 segments at a time, but there was a nice shooting section that interspersed the different sections. So not a bad game, to be honest. For $1.99, it was pretty good, and it has some great music and sound effects in it as well. So there's Future Games by Mastertronic. And then we're on to some full price releases. The first one is Enduro Racer. Now, this is one of my favourite racing games on the Speccy. I'm not a huge fan of racing games, but I really enjoyed this one. It was a bit of a surprise crash smash. I think the arcade machine, like a lot of arcade machines at the time, came with a huge bike peripheral which you sat on to play the game. Obviously that wasn't included in the Speccy version, at least I don't think it is. No, it's not in there. But Enduro Racer was a superb conversion nonetheless, and I think it surprised the Crash reviewers a lot, to be honest, because it got a Crash smash and it got a cover as well. But it is a great game as well, so it's certainly well justified. So well done, Activision there. And then we've got a shooter which I must admit I hadn't heard of. By a software house I've not heard of, which is a bit unusual for me, I must say, Ace. And they did a game called Executor, and I looked at the graphics on it, and it got a Syncare User Classic, not that means much, but it got a pretty decent review in Crash as well, and the graphics look really neat, in a kind of cybernoid way. They looked really colour clash free and quite sharp, so I thought I'd give Executor a go, so I took a punt and bought that. It wasn't particularly expensive, so we'll see what Executor is like maybe in a later video. And then finally, I've saved the best till last, we have The Great Escape, which if you watched my Ocean video recently, you'll know that this was a bigger mission from my Ocean video. This is a superb open world, or as open world as a prison camp can be, type game from Ocean. As I said earlier, I wasn't a big fan of isometric games, but I really love this game. As you can see in the top left and top right hand corner here, it was black and white isometric graphics, but the style for once really suited the game, and it just looked absolutely amazing, this game, and it was also a great game to play as well. So there you go, there's my Speccy pickups recently. I hope to pick up some more Speccy games soon, because I'm really getting into collecting the Spectrum games again. So thanks for watching, and I'll post another video soon. Cheers.